8:10 on a Monday. I have a special guest in studio. We're going to have some fun and be learning about yoga with Kasidy. So I'm going to throw this on to the FM, and feel free to ask questions and share this out. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio. It's 8:10 on a Monday. I got a guest in studio. I'm going to let her introduce herself and then share the name of what she has going on. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kasidy Kersey with Marina Bay Yoga.
Marina Bay Yoga. So Marina Bay, isn't that actually like is that where you're from? Marina Bay is like right here, right?
Marina Bay is the apartment complex I lived in Malaysia when I started practicing yoga full time. So as I was coming up with a name, I was looking all over. At one point, I was like, rock yoga. I was having such a hard time coming up with a name, and I started to look back to where the inspiration came. And I tossed out the idea Marina Bay Yoga to my team, and everybody just kind of was shell-shocked and loved it. So we moved ahead.
Malaysia. How did you get out to Malaysia?
Great question. So I was helping run a discipleship school in Malaysia. We helped people who wanted to work overseas come and learn about the culture and the language and also serve in the area. And so I was living there hosting that.
What made you get into that?
Yeah, great question. Oh, that's a long story.
We got time.
The short version, I was living in Boston at the time, and I was a part of this great group of people who were reaching out to nations all over the world to bring hope and service to them. And I heard about an opportunity to go to India to start that. So the first trek was over to India. We spent some time there, and then during our time in India, we needed to relocate because of a number of reasons. And so we then went over to Malaysia. And so my hope for that time was really just to be able to serve the community, and then also the young adults who were interested in living overseas and serving other people. So.
Where are you from originally?
Sugarland.
So you're from Sugarland.
I'm from Sugarland. So
Home
I'm
of
local.
the Skeeters.
Skeeters, woo!
Yeah, the Astros just acquired them as their AAA affiliate, which is really cool.
Wow.
So that's like the big leagues.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So go Skeeters. It's an awesome stadium if you've never been there. This is not an ad. I love the Skeeters Stadium. There's a beautiful lawn you can hang out on. It's great.
They had T-Mac, Tracy McGrady pitching for him, Rockets legend, for a little bit. I mean, he's a basketball player, but they were like, yeah, we'll sign him, Tracy McGrady to go pitch for the Skeeters.
Yeah.
But now they're affiliated with the Astros, so they probably can't do that.
Probably not.
Anymore. So why were you in Boston?
Great question. So after college, I went to school for fashion design, actually, and I wanted to work in the fashion industry, but I also just kind of had this, I don't know how else to put it other than like a calling on my heart to move to Boston specifically. So I moved to Boston. I worked in fashion for about 2-3 years there, and then that's when I moved to India.
So fashion, and then into, hey, there's something more besides just fashion, which fashion is important.
Yeah. So I went into fashion really with just seeing that there was a big need for hope. Specifically at the time that I grew up in, there was a lot of anorexia in the modeling industry because of the kind of ideal body shape. And there was a lot of just like I saw a lot of holes that I thought, man, if people just could experience hope, whatever that meant to them, then maybe this would change. And I think, every day we express ourselves through what we're wearing. It's the one thing that like every day, no matter what, we express ourselves. And so I wanted to help people better express themselves. So fashion design.
Yeah, fashion design in Boston, ended up trekking out to Malaysia. When you're in Malaysia, that's when you get introduced to yoga. What was it about yoga, I guess, that drew you in?
Yeah, great question. So I was living in Malaysia, and I had started to experience a lot of stomach pain, just physical discomfort almost all the time. And at the time, I just thought it was physical. I thought I was, just having stomach aches every day, maybe eating something funky. And I was told about yoga, so I started practicing little things here and there just to see if it would help. And over time, it really helped. My physical pain went away, but through that, I also realized that what I was experiencing was anxiety. That anxiety was causing my stomach to just be tied up in knots. And the yoga was not only physically helping me relax, but mentally it was helping me come into a more mindful state and really let myself enter into this moment rather than either being depressed about the past or scared about the future, those kind of extremes that we can tend to experience, but to bring my thoughts, my mind to this moment.
Okay. That's really interesting. So there's a physical aspect to it because it's not easy. I think I've done goat yoga actually 2 times, and I had a goat on my back and everything, and it was fun, and they're cute, and that so it was like a physical thing, and then it was like just making you happy because there's a baby goat like literally jumping up and down. But that's the only time I've ever been able to experience yoga, but it was a lot of fun.
We did goat yoga for my birthday last year, and it was so fun. I mean, it's very different than my yoga classes, but I would do puppy yoga, I would do kitten yoga. If they have any animals, I'm there. It was so fun.
Is there an animal yoga that they're not doing yet that maybe you could start at least a special, like one time, like duck yoga or something?
Hey, if there's enough of an interest, you guys speak up and I'll get it started.
Okay, so you're out in Malaysia, and then do you move back to the Houston area, or where do you go?
Yeah, so I'm living in Malaysia. This is the story. This is the good part. So I'm living in Malaysia. I am just like really overwhelmed with stomach pain, and it starts to become an emotional, spiritual thing. And I get introduced to yoga. I start practicing a little bit every day. My body and mind, the best way I can describe it is it almost becomes addicted to it. It's like I wake up and I can't wait to do it. And it's probably the first thing in my life that I was addicted to that was helpful. So I was using up as much time as I could to practice yoga. And yoga is more than just the poses. But the poses are the part that I understood at the time, and that's what I was focusing on. And so I'm practicing the poses, I'm doing yoga, and before I know it, my mind is starting to calm, but I'm also dealing with all of this emotional stress from the work that we were doing, and even my own ideologies kind of starting to transform. And so I would have what I would call probably the biggest kind of spiritual awakening for me in my lifetime. So far, I expect more, but my whole world kind of gets turned on its head, and my whole kind of ideology goes from my beliefs about God to really transforming, to put it simply. And so I end up kind of waving the flag and saying, hey guys, I need more help. I need more help to take care of myself. I've kind of ran myself ragged, and I need some assistance. So I end up moving back to Houston with my family, who are absolutely incredible, and really just start to go through a long period of kind of internal healing and really facing, the ego and the shadow self, and starting to really address some of the things that I had been dealing with, and just kind of covered up, put a smile on, and tried to, be happy, and started to really uncover some of those things. And what I found is that there's kind of this big idea of like, kill the ego. Well, we don't actually want to kill the ego.
Is that a yoga term?
No, the ego, our kind of internal need to fight for ourselves,
right.
and stand up for ourselves. It's really just our kind of internal child that is kind of calling out and saying, hey, I need something. And so I learned how to kind of face that internal world of, hey, I need something, instead of just pushing it aside and, being tough. And as I met myself in that place, what I learned is that we're good. Like, people are good, and we want good things. And so if we are willing to connect with ourselves and find out what those things are that we need, we maybe don't need to push them aside. We can have this full life and still address the things that are inside of us. And I would say that's what yoga really does for me. And I teach yoga to people who just want to exercise, they just want to stretch or get flexible. And then I teach yoga to people who really want to have their own spiritual awakening, and the connection between mind and body helps them do that.
So that entire time, whenever you were back here kind of going through that journey, you were practicing yoga?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Were you, at what point did you become, I guess, an instructor and teacher? Were you teaching then as well?
I wasn't teaching. So it started because I was practicing, and everybody was like, hey, we want to try this. So I would do it with my friends and family, just, not having a clue what I was doing. The most simple things I could think of that I had done in my own in classes that I had been in. And so it started just kind of as a fun thing. And then for a few years, I just kind of put it down. I just practiced on my own. And then last last year, I was like, okay, I'm ready to do this. I was a week into my training, and then the lovely COVID hit. So we had to pause. And I was able to pick it back up online, and I finished at the end of last year.
Awesome. Okay. So we met at the Iron Den.
Yes.
You work out there. When did you start training there?
Yeah, so I started training there, maybe November or December of last year. So it's only been a few months.
And it was about the same time that you finished your training.
It was. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did my training with an online school called My Vinyasa Practice. So what was really great about it is I could do it anytime. So I could work it into my schedule, and I was actually working for a company up until last week, a really great company, but my yoga just kind of has bloomed, and so it was time to make the jump full time.
Okay, so the first time that I met you at the Iron Den, we got paired up together, and there was another, it's Cody. Cody was his name. He was there with us. I saw him this morning, and you're like, are you the kind of person who needs like motivation to work out? And I was like, and okay, so wait, it's pretty early, and like I'm pretty, to be honest, like dead. I'm just like, I'm here. I'm just thankful to be here. I got to get in here so I can get out, right? And I was like, and I just like, I don't know how to answer this.
Who asked that question at 5 o'clock in the morning?
And then you were like, woo, you can do it, Cardi. Way to go. Way to go. And I was just like, thank you. I appreciate that. But I noticed on your Instagram, it's I am Kasidy, right? If you want to follow, feel free to do that. It says, your personal hype girl. So like in yoga, is that something that I guess you do? You will, I guess, encourage and hype people up? Yeah,
absolutely. So, zooming out from yoga, I kind of self-identify as your personal hype girl. Okay. That's who I want to be to people. I think those people who have come along in my life who do that for me, I just am like, I want to be like that. I want to be everybody's biggest fan. And yeah, especially in yoga, like one of the tools that I use is these encouragement cards. For example, one that I read this morning was I am creative, and it's all about encouraging people in their creativity. So yeah, absolutely. I definitely see that as part of my role in, is to just hype people up.
Is that something that you purposefully like have to kind of remind yourself and practice, or is that something you've done since you were young?
I actually have to tone it down. So I get told a lot. I have been told a lot by close friends, I didn't like you at first. I thought it was fake, which is fine. I've been told that for long enough now that I'm used to it. It doesn't hurt my feelings anymore. But I definitely have to take it from like a 12 to a 4 so that people actually can receive the hype.
So you have to purposefully like tone it down.
Yes.
At least at first, right? So they get to know you.
Yes. And then later on I can crank the volume.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. So, obviously, if you work out, at the Iron Den, does yoga help in other aspects of life as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big part of yoga is, is the stretches. And there's so many different types of yoga. The primary ones that I do are vinyasa and yin yoga. So yin yoga is going to be really, really good for your joints, long hold stretches, increased flexibility. And then vinyasa is going to be anytime you go to a class and they say it's a flow, that's probably what the type of class it is. It's probably vinyasa. And that's going to be better for strength, cardio, getting definitely flexibility. And so it obviously helps in those areas. I highly recommend it for anyone lifting weights. I remember my first week at Iron Den, maybe my first month actually, I was spending my exercise time at Iron Den, and didn't have as much time for yoga. By the end of the month, I was so tight. And I'm a yoga teacher. I practice yoga all the time. I was so tight. I mean, I couldn't sit crisscrossed. I was so tight from lifting and not pairing it with yoga. And so I definitely think anyone who's lifting needs to make sure that they are keeping their flexibility for their own mobility. But then also, it absolutely helps in other areas. Mindfulness, helping connect your brain to your body through breath work is so helpful in like emotional regulation and responding, how you really want to respond to people, not just reacting. So the practice of yoga definitely carries over.
So you mentioned something about a flow. Can you describe, what does that mean? Like one position to the next? Is it continuous the entire time?
Absolutely. So a flow is going to be connecting your breath to your movement. So on your inhale, you're going to do something. On your exhale, you're going to do something. And specifically in vinyasa, you're going to move through a series where you are, where you're basically going through a push-up type of position into a, I don't want to use a bunch of yoga words, but essentially,
just go for it. Just do it.
Essentially, you're going to move through a practice where you're going from like an inhale, a forward fold, and then
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just
you're
kidding.
into a push-up, and then you're into a, you're into like a cobra pose, and then you're into what a lot of people know, down dog, and then you're using that fluid movement to take you from one position to the next. So you're keeping your heart rate up.
How long is a session normally? Does it depend? Like if you're doing something like that, is it going to be a different time length and a different kind of training?
Yeah, so most of my classes are an hour long. I primarily teach private classes with people who have like pretty specific goals, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. And then I also do teach classes, but most of mine are 45 minutes to an hour long. I do longer if they want, but that's most of them.
Okay. I guess it just, it depends on the time and what they have going on, anything.
Exactly. And it mostly depends on their goals. Like if they, I have people who only want to practice 30 minutes because their goals are really specific and we can get there that fast. But I mean, ideally people would be practicing yoga every day. Even if I would encourage, especially if people are just getting started, practice for 5 minutes daily rather than, one time for an hour. That would be my encouragement. Everybody will have a different opinion on that.
What's a good way to get started to see if you have interest in it?
Absolutely. Follow me on Instagram, reach out, and I would love to show you. But also, I think just even taking a moment to, so one tip that I'll give is if you just sit down either in a chair or cross-legged and just start listening to your breath. Close your eyes, let your hands rest on your body, either your chest and your stomach or your knees, and just start listening to your breath. And that's where I would encourage people to start with yoga. The other way, obviously, I would love to talk to anyone who's interested in getting started. There's also tons of YouTube videos available for anyone who wants to just check out a beginner's class online. And then, of course, going into a studio. I know a lot of people are intimidated to go into studios if they've never practiced before, but yoga teachers are some of the warmest, kindest people you will ever meet. And the great thing about yoga is you can't fail.
Mm-hmm. And you can't succeed. You have to fail to succeed. I was listening to something this morning that said that, and I was like, that's good. That's the one thing that stuck out to me.
Absolutely. Like you can only succeed if you've figured out how to get there.
Exactly.
So.
Have you ever met any mean yoga teachers?
Yes.
Strict, I suppose? Is their style? I don't know.
Absolutely. So, so yoga in the West is very different than yoga in the rest of the world. And so I have met a few yoga teachers that were definitely not like more of a Western style yoga. And honestly, it was great. There's really strict yoga even sequences or types of yoga that are a little bit more by the book. And so, I think they have to be to help people stay safe.
So Marina Bay Yoga, we talked about the name, how you got it. What's the vision for it going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. The elevator speech, they tell you need to be able to say it in one sentence. Well, I'm not there yet. I have lots of ideas, pages and pages of inspiration. And I think ultimately, my anchor is this idea of fullness of life, that everybody deserves the fullest life that they can imagine. And so with Marina Bay Yoga, that's my hope, is to give people that, and then also to give other teachers that. So I didn't want to make it just Kasidy's yoga or whatever, because I really do want to build something that allows for lots of teachers to be able to help people. And so there's lots of dreams in the work. And like I said, I just started doing this full time, so I'm really excited to see how it develops.
So it's full time?
It's full time. Today is day one.
That's
so
awesome.
You're getting me like super fresh, ready to go. I'm pretty excited.
Okay, and I've seen on social media that you do some, one-on-one training. You do some Zoom classes as well. And then I saw there was something that got canceled. So where can somebody catch you like right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to get in touch with me is either Instagram or email. And I'm super excited to connect with people. So I do a Saturday morning class, 7 a.m. on Zoom. It's donation-based. It's a great opportunity for anyone who just wants to try it out. Your donation can be a smile. It doesn't have to be monetary. I really use that space to kind of get people in who have never done yoga before and want to just kind of test it out. I will say 99% of people keep their camera off. So if you're not comfortable being seen yet doing yoga, that's a great place to get started. Of course, privates. And then I will in the coming weeks start posting more about other events. So I'm in touch with a studio, a gym, and then a few locations that want to have me, host events there. So
can we get you at the Iron Den?
We'll see.
She said, okay, that's awesome. So I've been into the weight workout room, but since they moved into the new facility, I haven't even been into the other room with the office. And I always see people posting selfies at the cardio machine, and looks like there's TVs or a TV in there. I don't know. But is there a space where people could practice?
Yeah, so I hesitate to say too much because everything isn't nailed down just yet. But I love the Iron Den. I love the culture. I love Billy and Lauren. Nathan's my personal trainer. Jackie inspires me every time I see her. Like, I love the Den, and I'm super excited to see how I can partner with them. The space in the other room is perfect for yoga, and I know they're wanting to bring it in there. So
it'd be cool if they did.
It would be cool if they did. So we'll see what unfolds. They're regardless of what happens, they are such a great gym, and I have had so much. I don't like necessarily lifting weights, and I now do. Actually, since going to Iron Den, I had been trying to do a headstand for, probably a year, and I was terrified to get up. And I finally, after probably 2 months at the Den, I finally trusted my arms.
You're doing like push-ups on a headstand, just knocking them out over there?
Let me
tell
you, not yet. I still use the wall. But it was really cool to see like yoga paired with another practice, and to see the strength built. So.
Okay, I got to say, Nathan is really cool. I like working out with Nathan.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't, his motto is "you're fine." I feel like he probably wouldn't say that's his motto, but anytime I say anything about anything that is not positive, you're fine. You're fine.
You're fine.
And it's actually helpful because then sometimes in my own head when I'm like starting to complain, I'm like, Kasidy, you're fine.
Yeah. So anytime I've worked out with Nathan, he was like, well, you need to go down lower. Like whenever I do a squat or anything like that, because my hips are funny, my back, and all this stuff. And so the other day, whenever, you're working out and I saw you like sitting down, just like pretty much on the floor. And I was like, why? How did you do that? And you're like, I'm a yoga teacher. I was like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I'm sure Nathan's never been like, go lower, or has he?
When there's weight on my back, I definitely have to be told to go a little bit lower. There are a few movements that I do that are easier because of flexibility, but there are other movements that are probably harder. So I think it's both. Usually, I'm usually worried that I'm doing it wrong and I'm going to hurt myself, and he's always like, "Just you're fine. Just keep going." So.
Okay, so ideally, if there was a yoga class at the Iron Den, I think it'd be great to have it after one of those AM classes so that way you can train. Does that make sense, or do you want to do it fresh? Like lift weights and then do yoga, or yoga lift weights, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it really depends on the type of yoga. So for when we're practicing our flows or vinyasa, really it can go either way. I think for vinyasa, it's okay to practice right after a big workout and get another good sweat in, kind of get your cardio time in, if you will. And then for a yin class, you really want to practice cold. So either first thing in the morning or right before bed, but you don't want it to be after a workout where your body is really warm. Because they're longer holds, you don't want to overstretch them. So
cool.
Yeah.
Marina Bay Yoga. Is there anything else you'd like for Kasidy or Marina Bay Yoga? Anything at all?
I think I would just like to offer everybody just the. I want to offer everybody this. Is that really if you can take even 5 minutes to stop and sit time, and maybe we'll want to add movement to that breath. But just taking 5 minutes a day to breathe intentionally can make a big difference. So.
That's a long time. I'm just kidding.
Start with 1 minute.
You got to work up to it.
Yeah, start with 1 minute. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. How can somebody reach out to you one more time?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at I am Kasidy. That's Kasidy. I would love to chat with you on there. And I'm excited to see all of you yogi beginners or longtime yogis just connect with me on Instagram.
This is KHEA Radio 99.5 FM.